The most memorable long segment we have ever done in our 10 years has to do with a piece that Adam, Dwayne, and I put together called Gore. It was aired first during the 2000 presidential race. We present to you the encore of Gore. It began when Al Gore was a young man. In the fall of 1968, Al Gore claimed that he had influenced the nomination acceptance speech of Hubert Humphrey through conversations with a Chicago Sun columnist, whom Al Gore asserted was Humphrey's ghostwriter. But the columnist said he had nothing to do with that speech. Al Gore's claim wasn't true. In 1987, Al Gore told the Des Moines Register as he began his presidential campaign that his youthful reporting had led to the indictment and imprisonment of several people. But that wasn't true. In August of 1987, the Los Angeles Times reported that Gore had bragged that half of his presidential campaign staff were women. But it wasn't true. In February of 1988, the Washington Post quoted Al Gore as saying he'd been shot at in Vietnam. It wasn't true. That claim was shot down by Newsweek in December of 1999. In April of 1988, Al Gore told a League of Women Voters gathering that he had written the law Superfund. Recently, he changed his story because the real author of the Superfund law was James Florio. On October 30th, 1992, Gore denied that there was a dump on his father's farm, but Nashville television showed the pictures. On January 24th, 1997, regarding the Buddhist temple event, Al Gore said on the Today Show that, quote, "I did not know it was a fundraiser." On December 15th, 1997, Time magazine reported that Al Gore claimed that he and Tipper had served as role models for the Eric Siegel novel Love Story. But that wasn't true. On March 9th, 1999, Al Gore told Wolf Blitzer on CNN that, quote, "I took the initiative in creating the Internet." It wasn't true. The Department of Defense got the Internet underway in 1969. Al Gore was 21 in 1969. On April 25th, 1999, Al Gore told the Detroit chapter of the NAACP that his father was a fighter for civil rights, but he didn't tell them that his father had voted against the Civil Rights Act of 1964. On June 1st, 1999, at a Women for Gore event, Al Gore said he'd always been pro-choice, but that wasn't true. As a congressman, he had voted pro-life on many occasions. On October 14th, 1999, Al Gore's website proclaimed he'd worked for the Test Ban Treaty for 20 years. But that claim wasn't true. As late as 1992, Al Gore had opposed that treaty on the Senate floor. On November 1, 1999, Time magazine reported that Al Gore claimed to have authored the Earned Income Tax Credit. That wasn't true. The Earned Income Tax Credit was passed into law in 1975, and Al Gore didn't even enter Congress until 1977. On November 24th, 1999, the New York Times reported that Al Gore claimed to have been a co-sponsor of the McCain-Feingold Campaign Finance Reform Bill. But Al Gore never served in the Senate with Senator Feingold. It wasn't true. On December 23rd, 1999, ABC News reported that Al Gore flatly declared that I live on a farm today. Al Gore lived then, and he lives now at the Naval Observatory on Massachusetts Avenue in the District of Columbia. The observatory is not a farm. Al Gore's statement wasn't true. On February 4th, 2000, the New York Times reported that Al Gore claimed to have spoken to a crowd of 3,000 people. But the room in which he spoke had a maximum capacity of 1,200. It wasn't true. On February 15, 2000, Al Gore asserted that he'd never grown tobacco on the farm he owned in Tennessee. But the Wall Street Journal in 1995 and Cox News Service in 1999 reported that tobacco had indeed been grown on that farm. On April 11, 2000, Al Gore was reported by the Boston Globe to be trumpeting that he had had his own meeting with Gorbachev. But the Globe reported that 26 other members of Congress had been present at that mass meeting. It just wasn't true. In June of 2000, Al Gore said, quote, "I introduced the very first free TV legislation in the Senate in 1988. But more than 150 bills on that subject had previously been introduced in previous Congresses. It just wasn't true." In his acceptance speech at the August Democratic Convention, Al Gore said that the Bush tax cut would benefit the middle class by only 62 cents a week. But that wasn't true. On August 28th, Al Gore told a gathering of Florida seniors that his dog Shiloh and his mother-in-law took the same arthritis drug, but that his mother-in-law paid 3 times as much as the dog did, and that wasn't true. And Al Gore won't even answer questions about whether his mother-in-law pays anything for her drugs. At a convention of Teamsters on September 18th, Al Gore said that one of the lullabies of his that he'd been sung to as a child had been a Union song. And he sang a few words of it, but the song he sang wasn't written until Al Gore was in his 20s. It simply wasn't true. On September 22nd, Al Gore told the Associated Press that he'd been part of the discussions on the Strategic Petroleum Reserve since the days it was first established. But that reserve was established in 1975, and Al Gore did not enter Congress until 1977. In the weekend before the first presidential debate, Al Gore complained he had never been invited to appear on a PBS documentary about presidential debates. But PBS officials said they had indeed invited Al Gore, and Al Gore's staff confirmed that he had rejected the invitation. At the presidential debate on October 3, 2000, Al Gore claimed that a girl had to stand in the classroom of Sarasota High School and was still standing, but it wasn't true. And the principal of the high school went on national television to say so. In the same debate, Al Gore said he'd worked with former President Ronald Reagan on defense issues, but that wasn't true. Al Gore had opposed Ronald Reagan on defense issues. In the same debate, Al Gore was asked what he had meant when he attacked Governor Bush as lacking the experience to be president. Al Gore told moderator Jim Lehrer he had never said such a thing, but he had. And so had his staff on many occasions. It wasn't true. In the same debate, Al Gore said he took a risk in asking the former Prime Minister of Russia, Viktor Chernomyrdin, to become involved in negotiating an end to the conflict in Kosovo. But the New York Times reported that the Russian President Yeltsin had designated Mr. Chernomyrdin the special envoy to the Balkans and had done so 2 weeks before Chernomyrdin met with Mr. Gore. Mr. Gore's claim simply wasn't true. In the same debate, Mr. Gore said he'd accompanied Jamie Lee Witt, the head of the federal government's emergency response team, to catastrophic fires in Texas, but that wasn't true. He didn't accompany Mr. Witt, and he didn't go to those fires. He made it up. It wasn't true. Television commentator Morton Kondracki says Al Gore suffers from a Forrest Gump complex. The New York Times quotes a professor of psychology as saying that Al Gore's record is, quote, like the false memory syndrome, where people end up believing that they were abducted by aliens. The head of the California Democratic Party says he cannot explain Al Gore's behavior because he is, quote, not a psychiatrist. The Washington Post quotes a veteran Democrat as saying Al Gore's record is, quote, dangerous because it reinforces a dangerous perception that Gore is just another arrogant politician and we have 8 more years of lies ahead of us, end quote. Former New Jersey Senator Bill Bradley asked Al Gore in a New Hampshire debate, why should we believe that you will tell the truth as president if you don't tell the truth as candidate? Why indeed? In matters large and matters small, and matters 3 decades old and 3 days old, Al Gore has not told the truth. As a senator, as a vice president, as a nominee for president, Al Gore has not told the truth. In front of 50 million Americans in the first presidential debate, on at least 6 separate matters, Al Gore did not tell the truth. If there's one thing certain about campaign 2000, it's that you cannot trust Al Gore. You simply cannot trust Al Gore. I must say, that was a fine bit of radio production as the 10th anniversary show rolls along here on July the 12th, 2010. We'll be right back. You know, the Fox News Channel didn't even exist then, and I was on with Megyn Kelly earlier today. It's the Hugh Hewitt Show.